What's going on, you outstanding people? Welcome to Friday on the Groove Line Live with your boy Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you wonderful people are doing well out there. Don't get used to this show being this early anymore, just for the record. I started a new job this week. My first week was so busy that I almost went over my allotted hours. So, sent me home early today. I was not disciplined. I was not in trouble. I was just working. So, they were like, well, Chris, you almost hit your hours. So, you only have to come in for a little bit today. So, that's why this show is so early. But yes, today is going to be a really cool day because I'm going to share some of my favorite concert experiences with you guys. I mean, it's basically story time with Chris. If you guys are new to this side of town, I pretty much have a story related to music all day long, all night long. I could tell you, some things about songs and memories and all of that stuff, which I'll get into on this channel as I often do. But before I do that, I want to share something with you guys. This little graphic that I put together, this little handy dandy. So, On the Groove Line, once again, is a music podcast hosted by myself, Chris Stevens. I talk all things old school, hip hop, R&B, jazz fusion, jazz funk, disco, EDM, dance, you name it, I cover it. So, if you would like to support this particular endeavor of mine, subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/at on the groove line. And when we are live on YouTube, like we are right now, you can send a super chat. What is a super chat? A super chat is a way that you can drop a sticker or a question or anything and tag a donation amount to it. It can be $1, it can be $5, it can be 10. If you have $20 million to spare like Mackenzie Scott, I will take that too. But whatever you can spare is perfectly fine. As I said in parentheses, any donation amount is accepted. Be sure to bookmark and visit our website, onthegrooveline.com. That's where I do some of my best writing about music, reviewing albums and songs, and sharing some music news and different things of that nature. So again, this is a full service operation. Follow us on Instagram if you're not already. Just go to Instagram, search for On the Groove Line, all one word, and hit the follow button. And if you're not following us on Facebook, but if you're watching this, you already are. But just tell somebody. Go to facebook.com/On the Groove Line, hit the follow button, and that'll be cool. And tell a friend to tell a friend. Word of mouth travels. I mean, we have 11,000 followers on Facebook so far. We're closing in on 1,000 subs on the Groove Line on our YouTube channel. So please be sure to spread the word so we can get this operation, going, get it great, get it popping. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say in the intro. But today is going to be a day where I share some of my favorite concert stories because summer concerts have always been a thing. And I have my mother to thank for that. My mom is the reason that, music plays such a prominent role in my life. And the music that I grew up listening to, like, people are like, wow, you have so much stuff about Philly International. I was like, well, I grew up in a Philly International household. I grew up in a Philly Soul household. I didn't have any choice. So I had no choice but to become a Philly Soul head. But over time, I was able to discover my own little music and different things. But still, I stuck close to what my mom taught me. And so for every summer, probably for the last 6 or 7 years that Frankie Beverly was with us, we went to go see Frankie at the Dell. And the last show we went to see was, of course, July of 2024, which was his last show at the Dell. And I remember my mom was kind of, worried about, the price of things at the time because my mom's retired now. My mom is retired and I've been cutting out a living as a freelance journalist. And now that I have a steady job again, don't have to really work so hard to make money. Still got to work to make money, but not as hard. But my mom was like, well, I do want to see Frankie this last time, but if I miss him, I miss him. I said, the hell you are. I didn't say that to her, of course, but I said, when she said that, I was thinking to myself, the hell you are. We going to this show. So I pulled some money together, got us some pretty decent tickets, and we went and enjoyed the show. And the Whispers opened for Frankie that night. That was the last time we saw Walter Scott Jr. too. Of course, Walter Scott passed away in 2025. And Frankie passed 2 months after the Dell show. Stunned us all. Stunned us all. But that experience was priceless for so many reasons because we knew we were saying farewell to a legend. We just didn't know it would be the final farewell. And just getting to see him, even though people can say what they want about Frankie in the final years that he was on tour. Nobody cares that he wasn't hitting the same notes. Not a single soul. Because we all sang the songs with him and for him. And we're glad to do so. And I mean, granted, you go to a show to see people perform, but you also go for the experience. And a Frankie Beverly show, no matter if it's 2,000 people or however many people the Dell Music Center seats. I don't know how many people sit in the Dell. Any of my Philly people, what's the Dell seating arrangement? Because I done totally forgot the number. But the first time I saw Frankie by myself, I was covering the Delaware State football team in Detroit, Michigan in 2006, Labor Day weekend. I got on a plane with about 100 crazy Delaware State football players, coaches, administrators, flew to Detroit to play Florida A&M in something called the Ford Football Classic. And they needed a reporter from the student perspective. And I was a student for only a few more months, but they were like, Chris, are you going to get on the plane to go to Detroit? I said, might as well, even though I'm scared to fly. I was like, all right, man, I'll go. I mean, because it's a football game, it's free, I'm paid for, I get to cover the game. What's the point? But I got there and they found out that Frankie was going to be doing a concert after the football game. So I never wrote a story as fast, and I'll talk more about that later on, than I did when I went to go see Frankie for the first time up in the press box of Ford Field. Now, mind you, Ford Field, Detroit folks know Ford Field is massive, but that's the biggest stadium I've ever been in my life. And I've been a sports writer for going on 25 years. Ford Field was absolutely impressive. So get to the press room, do all the clickety clackety, and then I ride the elevator back up because again, this is an NFL football stadium. You don't walk the stairs of an NFL stadium to get back to the press box from the bowels of the building. You have to take an elevator. So I go up back to the press box because the football players and stuff are eating food before we get back on the plane to go to Dover, Delaware. And I think there were maybe like 30,000 people to see the game. It's probably closer to 30,000 than it was 50. It's probably 30,000. Probably 20 or 25,000 stayed to see Frankie. And this is when Frankie was still Frankie. Like, the band was playing, Laid Back Girl to start out, and Frankie comes strutting out on stage, and these people go absolutely nuts. And it was my first time seeing Frankie, and then I was like, okay, I get it now. Because my mom had wanted to see Frankie so many times before 2006. But that was my first time. And alone, it was just like, okay, I see now. So yeah, he's that dude, and it was a good time. I saw a few songs before we had to get back on the plane, but that was my first time seeing Frankie Beverly, and that was a concert experience I will never forget. And that last concert, seeing Frankie 18 years later, was something that I will never forget because there were everybody in white singing "Joy and Pain." Everybody, well, except for me. I wore a red Phillies t-shirt. I'll talk more about why that red Phillies t-shirt is my comfort t-shirt for concerts in a minute, but going to see Frankie that last time, I wasn't gonna let my mom down. I wasn't gonna let her go without seeing her guy, her favorite. And it was just one of those experiences that you're gonna remember forever, especially since he passed away like 2 months after that. It was just like, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I made that memory happen for my mom. It was just like, whew, we got it through it. And later that year, though, a month after Frankie died, because my birthday is September 25th, and my personal GOAT, as you guys already know, is Mr. Stevie Wonder. I was about to call him Stevland Morris, but that's his name, Stevland Morris. But yeah, we know him as Stevie Wonder. So Stevie was going out on tour ahead of the general election. Boy, have we suffered in the years since that thing. But I had never seen Stevie Wonder live before. And Stevie Wonder is firmly entrenched as in my musical catalog. And there was no way on God's green earth that I was missing Stevie Wonder in the concert. Wasn't going to do it. Even if it was during football season. Now, mind you, I also freelance for HBCU Sports. So we cover football games remotely, doing, summaries and stuff. So this concert was on a Saturday. I said, I don't care. I'm going. And my editors was like, yeah, we want you to go. Go enjoy yourself. Take care of this game first. Head on out. So this game that I'm watching on, I think it's either the Griot or HBCU Go. They switched from the game before the game was even over. And it was a close game. So I had to go looking for an alternate feed to watch the rest of this damn game so I could write this story and get on the highway to go to Philly to see Stevie. I was so mad. So mad. But I finished the story. And then I got on the road in my rickety 1999 Chevy Prism. I am not taking that car on 95 again ever. No, until I get something different, new, and a little more secure. But that was a scary ass ride. And I don't like driving to Philly anyway, but Philly's where all the good concerts are. So that's where I go. And seeing Stevie was just like a bucket list item for me. There was nothing else. If I don't go, I mean, I've gone to concerts since then and will go to concerts. But if I never go to another concert in life, I don't give a damn. You know why? Because I saw Stevie Wonder live. And Stevie Wonder, mind you, was 74 at the time of this concert. And he still performs like a dude who is trying to prove a point. And that show was incredible. He did a lot of great stuff. He was in Philly, of course, so he did some stylistics, he did some delphonics. Stevie was showing the range off. He also did a duet with his accompanying vocalist, Shalea McDonald. They did a duet of Don't You Worry About a Thing, and the roof almost came off the joint. We had a ball in there. About 17,000 of us in the Wells Fargo Center. Had an absolute blast. And it took everything in me not to cry like a little girl at a Michael Jackson concert, because that's how much Stevie Wonder means to me. And to see him live for the first time as a birthday present to myself, going to concerts alone, it's kind of overrated, but I wanted to be able to enjoy Stevie without having to engage with anybody else, which sounds kind of silly, but I'm kind of like a loner anyway. I'm very introverted. So concerts kind of freak me out, believe it or not, even though I love live music. Being around thousands of people just kind of scares me a little bit, but I get through it okay. But yeah, I went to go see Stevie by myself. No regrets, as the commercial says. No regrets. No regrets. So yeah, I went to go see Stevie by myself, had a ball. And just, again, as somebody who loves old school artists, I try to take every opportunity to see who I can, because you never know when this will be the last time. I mean, we didn't know that Frankie was going to go 2 months after his show. We didn't know that Walter Scott was going to pass away less than a year after the Whispers opened for Frankie that night. It was just like, if you love old school music and some of your old school favorites are still touring, I highly implore you to go. If you got the money to make it happen, make it happen, because you are not going to be able to just say, oh, I'll see them next year. Oh, I'll see them a couple of months from now, because everybody gets older and Father Time is undefeated. The Grim Reaper is undefeated. You got to go see your favorites when you can see your favorites. And going to see Stevie, like I said, I don't care if I don't go to another concert. I mean, I've been to concerts since then, but I saw Stevie, bro. I saw Stevie. That was like just the most incredible experience I could ever ask for. And it was just me. But I still think that, concerts with people that you love and people that you can stand, more importantly, because we all know that we have personality conflicts with people, even with people that we love. Even with people that we love, we have personality conflicts. So it's important to note that when you go to concerts with people, make sure it's with people that you're not going to want to swing on and cuss out during the show. Let's make that clear. Enjoy concerts with people that you can enjoy anything else with. Because if people are just going to make you miserable at a show where you're supposed to be having fun, y'all don't need to be around each other. So yes, a concert date is still on the bucket list for me. I mean, I'm still, very much single, unfortunately, but I still hold out hope that there's a woman out there who doesn't mind a dude who works hard, has like 3-4 different jobs, can be a little off the beaten path. Because I know I'm weird. I ain't gonna lie to you. I know I'm weird, but I also know that I'm a fairly decent person and I'm not a bad person to spend time with. So I'm still waiting on a great time, to have a concert date in my life, and a destination concert where we go rent a room, go see somebody in a different location, and, do couple stuff. I'm still open to that. So I know a lot of my listeners are probably like 60s and 70s. So if y'all got any daughters, nieces, they tell them I'm available. Just hit me up. But yeah, another concert I went to solo was the Renaissance tour. I went to see Beyonce for the first time in July of 2023. This was also in Philly at Lincoln Financial Field. Now, mind you, I live in Philadelphia Eagles territory. My first trip to Lincoln Financial Field was to see Beyonce. I mean, I've been to an Eagles game before, but it was at Veterans Stadium. And good Lord, Veterans Stadium, what a dump. Ugh, so God they got rid of that. If you've never been to Veterans Stadium, count your blessings. I mean, I went to go to the bathroom. I was 15 when we went to Veterans Stadium. Went to Veterans Stadium because the Eagles were playing the Arizona Cardinals. And we were with a youth group because that's all, because we had tickets with a youth group that took us to go see the Eagles. And I went to go use the bathroom, and somebody had done number two in a number one sort of a stall, as it were. When you go, when we go to the bathroom in these public bathrooms and you handle your business, somebody had did number two in there instead of number one and didn't bother to flush. And then when the Eagles fans were booing the referees, they started throwing pretzels, and I got hit in the head with a stale pretzel. That shit hurt. So Veterans Stadium was a nightmare. That was, thank goodness, that was my only experience. But Lincoln Financial Field is a beautiful place, and going to see Beyonce in Lincoln Financial Field was very interesting. So let me tell you guys about the Renaissance tour and how fun it was to people watch as I drove up to Lincoln Financial Field that night. Because this is back when I had a more reliable car. I had a Nissan Altima. Then, of course, the transmission blew. I had bad luck with cars, but that's another story for another podcast. But yeah, July 12th, 2023. I went to go see the Renaissance tour at Wells Fargo Center. And being that the Renaissance album and era was dedicated to largely, the LGBTQ community, you saw things that I normally don't see in Wilmington, Delaware. And I mean, you see, I'm not saying there aren't gay people, there aren't lesbians, there aren't bisexual people, there aren't trans people, there aren't non-binary people in Wilmington, Delaware, but that was a huge congregation of underrepresented folks at the link that night. And I just sat in the car and watched so many people free to be themselves. And I came away inspired, that, all right, I'm the only straight. I don't think I'm the only. I don't think I was the only straight dude in the building, but I was. Felt like it, and I wasn't wearing anything disco ball because the Renaissance thing was the disco ball theme and all of that. So there's a lot of people wearing a lot of silvery, sparkly things. Your boy had on his burgundy red Philadelphia Phillies throwback logo T-shirt, some silver basketball shorts, and a pair of New Balances. I looked so out of place. This beard, this goatee that I love so much. I have to tell you guys a story about the goatee in a minute. I looked so out of place, but nobody judged anybody because 60,000 people were there to see Beyonce. And we had a time, dog. We absolutely had a time. And I just, I came away from that concert thinking there's nobody that works harder at her craft. Like, she sings, she dances, she entertains the crowd. And then, with the Renaissance tour, you had all those crazy props. Like, she was getting elevated off the stage and all of that stuff, being hovering over people. That would scare the hell out of me as somebody who hates heights. So Beyonce literally just goes all out. And that's why she is the biggest living pop star today, without a shadow of a doubt. And just going to see her live and being able to understand why she has such a, we'll say, overzealous fan base, because some of the Hive, they be tripping. But Beyonce is an incredible performer, and the Renaissance tour, I think that probably was the best way for me to be introduced to Beyonce live. I mean, I didn't see Cowboy Carter because Cowboy Carter didn't come to Philly, and I wasn't driving to North Jersey or PG County for Cowboy Carter. Wasn't. But I feel like the Renaissance tour was the best way to introduce me to Beyonce live, because I've always been a fan of dance music and, disco, house, EDM, all of that. And Beyonce introduced that to a new group of fans, a new generation. And people understood that Black people and Black queer people, by extension, have done so much for music, for music, Black music, of course, but music in general. So being able to witness, Beyonce's labor of love, as it were, and the people that she intended it for enjoying themselves, like, I just looked around like, this is a very special night, a very special night. And I hope that, anybody else that was outside of the intended audience, like myself, came away from that night feeling the same way. Because every so often, people seem to feel like they're owed exclusivity for their for the norm. But people outside of the norm, they don't get celebrated that often. And Beyonce was able to do that with Renaissance. And I sat, let me see. There was a male couple a few rows down from me. There were a couple of girls from Connecticut to my right who had smuggled in some greenery, shall we say, and they were lighting up before the show. And they looked at me like, and they knew I was a square. I mean, I don't smoke, I don't drink. I'm very much L7. I'm sorry. But they looked at me and they looked like, oh, he's gonna ask us to put it out. I said, nah, y'all here, enjoy yourself. This is what it's supposed to be. I mean, I ain't gonna catch no contact. I mean, I'll just scoot down a little bit so I can drive home in peace. But y'all light up, have your fun. And we danced in the aisles, and everything like that. I mean, it was a blast. It was a blast, man. I mean, that's what concerts are supposed to be. Concerts are supposed to be for you to enjoy yourself. You don't need to be restricted. You don't need to be restrained. You don't need to worry about what the next person is doing. You don't need to worry about what the person behind you is doing, the person in front of you is doing. Just have a ball. And that's what the Renaissance tour in Philly was for me. And I enjoyed myself. Like, I still go back and look at some of those videos that I took on my phone, raggedy as hell, because I'm not really a video photographer. But just go back and watch them sometimes and be like, wow, I really saw Beyonce live with 60,000 other people, and it was lit. It was a good time. So I do have to tell a sort of embarrassing concert story. Y'all ready for this one? The very first concert I ever went to, January 31st, 1989, the Spectrum in Philly. I've been to almost every concert venue in Philadelphia because of the proximity, but this is back when the Spectrum was open. This was the Any Heartbreak tour. New Edition, Heavy D and the Boys. I want to say Bob was on that tour, Bobby Brown. I think, but yeah, I know New Edition was the headliner. I know Heavy D opened. Heavy D and the Boys opened. And it was my mom, my older cousin Keisha, and my younger sister. And mom pulled us out of school early because my cousin Keisha, I think she was either in 6th or 7th grade. I can't remember. My sister was in pre-K. She was 3. I was in 2nd grade. I was 7. So we drove up to Philly to go see New Edition. And I fell asleep. My 3-year-old sister, my 11-year-old cousin, my mom, all enjoyed themselves. Me, I went to sleep and missed New Edition entirely. So now, 37 years later, I'm still trying to find a way to see New Edition live because I fell asleep as a 2nd grader in the Spectrum. I'm still mad at myself about that. I don't know what happened in school that day. I know mom made us go to sleep early the night before so we could be, ready for the show. But for some strange reason, I fell asleep and missed New Edition entirely. So, yeah, that happened. That is my most embarrassing concert experience because I didn't experience a damn thing. I think I saw a little bit of Heavy D, and that's the last I remember. Last thing I remember was my mom shaking me and telling us, and them laughing at me, come on, Chris, we got to go. I'm like, what you mean we got to go? And I saw people getting up and walking out, like 15, 16,000 people getting up and walking out. And it dawned on me that I had missed the whole show. Whew. Shame. But things happen. Things absolutely happen. And, there are other concert stories I could tell, but I think I'll share one more because it's funny. This wasn't as embarrassing, but it's still funny. So for my 34th birthday, the internet was torn behind the Ego Death album. The internet is apparently back in the studio. Thank God for that. So they were coming to a place called the Trocadero, which, if you're familiar with Philly, is Chinatown. The Troc is closed now, unfortunately. Rest in peace to the Troc. But Chinatown is one of those neighborhoods in Philadelphia where you're not going to be able to just pull up on a venue and park your car. You're going to have to hit a garage. You're going to have to pay those exorbitant garage fees. And then you will have to walk several blocks to get to your destination. When I found out about that for the truck, man, I was so discouraged because me and my mom were sharing a car at the time, a Honda Civic. But my mom was like, I ain't going nowhere. It's your birthday. You want to go to this show? Go enjoy yourself. So I drove this little Honda Civic. I have a thing for driving small cars up to Philly. Why? I do not know. But I drove this Honda Civic up through Center City, you know, over to Chinatown, and found a place to park, which didn't, break my freelancer's pockets at the time, and walked up to the truck. I already bought tickets because I bought a ticket because a social media friend of mine was living in Philly at the time, and she wanted to see the internet too. So he's like, all right, we might as well go to the show together then. So we get in line. It is a long ass line full of college kids. They are loud. They are obnoxious. They are college kids, basically, because I was a college kid once. I knew that. I know how that went. So, my friend said, I'm not staying here. I ain't sticking around for this stuff. She said, I'm out. And she's like, Chris, you can stay if you want to. I said, well, I kind of drove a long way up here and I don't want to miss the show. So I think what I'm going to have to do is just bite the bullet and hope that the internet puts on a great show. And they did. They absolutely did. So, I mean, it was worth, bumping into kids that are like 10, 15 years younger than me, just no real, I guess, spatial awareness, shall we say? No real spatial awareness of the person around you, just bumping and banging into me. And I wasn't as old as I am now. Like if somebody bumped and banged into me at 44, I'm going to look at you like you're crazy. 34, back then it was like, okay, it happens. I'm not hurt. I'm not in pain. But the older we get, the more aches and pains we get. Y'all remember that song by Lou Rawls? Someday you're gonna be old. Dun, dun, dun. Bless your soul. Yeah, y'all know Lou Rawls. But yes, yeah, the internet show, it was fun. It was so funny because Sid, the front woman, she was like, all right, I want y'all to put y'all phones up. I know they don't allow lighters in here, so put your flashlights on. So I'm fumbling with my phone, and all I did was just hit the button on the phone to light my screen up. And before Sid could even notice, my screen went out. She looked up in the balcony where I was sitting. She said, bro, your phone ain't even on. I was like, oh shit. So I tried and I got it back on in time, for the lighter part, the flashlight portion of the show. But yeah, that was fun. That was a fun time. That was a very fun show. So, the whole thing I wanted to do with this live show and this whole on the Groove Line thing, this particular episode was just talk about concerts and just explain to people that live music is still very much important because you need to know when you support these artists that they can at least put on a live show. And that's something that I don't see from a lot of contemporary popular musicians today. I mean, when you think about how some of these OGs are still putting in the work, like Dennis Edwards, I took my mom to go see Dennis Edwards one summer, and I'm not going to put my mom business out there completely, but I learned more about her crush on Dennis Edwards than I ever wanted to know. But hey, we're amongst friends here. So yeah, but Dennis Edwards was still performing Papa Was a Rolling Stone like he wanted to square up with Norman Whitfield. Still. And mind you, Dennis Edwards got sick a little bit after that and passed away about a year or so later. But 2016, Dennis Edwards was still sounding like the record. He was still, it was the 3rd of September, the day I'll always remember. Yes, I will. He was still singing that song very, very angry. So when he passed, I said, now he can go fight Norman Whitfield. That's what he wants to do in the afterlife. Because he still sang that song like he wanted to square up with Norman Whitfield. But that's important. If you're going to be a performer, you need to perform. If you're going to be a show person, you need to put on a show. And that's what a lot of the OGs are trying to impress upon this newer audience. I'll never forget, I was reading something earlier this week. Lionel Richie said Usher and Chris Brown put on a great show. We used to do that kind of stuff. Only difference is we ain't get arrested. He's so I guess like Lionel's talking about the indecent exposure stuff. Usher and the young lady who didn't want to be ushered, and Chris Brown simulating relations on a recent hot social media video. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm not old enough to be, get off my lawn type stuff, but I do appreciate classier acts. I appreciate old school acts who stick to the script and still perform. I prefer, artists who don't need to do a bunch of outrageous stuff to get people excited. And I mean, that's probably why I'm not. I mean, because I don't support Chris Brown anyway. I mean, that dude. I mean, if you put your hands on a female relative of mine, ain't gonna be no tours for you, bro. Ain't gonna be no tours. Ain't gonna be no more music. What you think this is? But yeah, and Usher, I'm very disappointed in Usher, my fellow Libra. Like, bruh, your legacy was already secure. Why are you trying to keep up with Chris Brown and all of these kids of today? Be Usher. Be My Way. Be There Goes My Baby. There be every time I think of you. Be that Usher. Don't be the old ass dude in the club trying to keep up with the young guns. That's the worst thing you can do as an older artist is try to have a second childhood, in my personal opinion. You don't have to be 50, 60 years old, taking your shirt off on stage. As a man, as a woman, you don't have to be 50, 60 years old trying to twerk and make it bounce. You ain't got to do all of that. Just be yourself. Be what made you famous. Be what made you great. You ain't got to do all that extra stuff. That's not what we go to see. I mean, I would be very disappointed if I went to go see. I mean, I missed Stephanie Mills last Thursday. God, I wanted to see Stephanie Mills and the Isley Brothers at the Dell last Thursday, but I couldn't make it happen. But I would be very disappointed if Stephanie Mills, started on, go ahead, girl, put your leg up, that type of thing. Stephanie Mills she's classy. She's legendary. She doesn't need to do that. That's why I wish some of these new, the artists that are like 45, 50, and 60, you don't have to do all of that. You can just perform your hits and people will still love you. You don't have to try to follow in the footsteps of these new jacks because it's an entirely different generation. But yes, that's my concert memories episode. Some of my favorites. I mean, I got more in the tank. I mean, I've been to a lot of shows, but I just wanted to share some of my favorites with y'all and the ones that stick out. But if you are catching this on the flip, please let me know what your favorite concert memory is. It can be from the 60s, from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 90s. It could be from now. Because, I mean, there are still people putting on good shows. It could be something as big as a stadium tour, or it could be something as intimate as a little spoken word venue. If you went to see a certain artist before they blew up when they were still doing like supper lounges and all of that, I want to hear about it. Let's talk about it in the comments. So that's going to do it for this edition of On the Groove Line Live. I want to thank you wonderful people for tuning in. I'm going to put this graphic back up before we get up out of here, if it'll let me. Okay, there we go. All right, so there's the graphic. So if you want to support On the Groove Line, here's how you do it. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching us on Facebook. It's youtube.com/@On the Groove Line. And when we are live on YouTube, like we are right now, send a super chat. That is a donation based thing where you can send $1, $5, $10, 100 million, whatever you want to send. You can do that. You can also bookmark and visit our website on thegrooveline.com. That's where I write music reviews and share music news throughout the week. And you can follow us on Instagram as well, On the Groove Line. Just search for that, all one word. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/@On the Groove Line. And don't forget, word of mouth is important. So if you want to tell people, hey, there's this guy named Chris Stevens who loves music. He's had Michael Cooper from Confunction on the show. He's had the Troutman Brothers on his show. He's had Bernard Jackson of Surface on the show. You should really check out On the Groove Line. He's had Marcus Chapman of Unsung, Deanna Williams, the mother of Black Music Month. It's a really good channel. And so tell people about On the Groove Line because word of mouth matters and it travels. So thank you guys for tuning in to this edition of On the Groove Line Live with your boy Chris Stevens this week. Greatly appreciate y'all as always. Next week, we are wrapping up our MFSB Mondays. It's going to be a little later in the day because I am scheduled to have the surviving member of the Sweethearts of Sigma. Yes, Miss Carla Benson is going to come back and talk about the Mysteries of the World album, which features her solo classic, Tell Me Why. So yes, I mean, I got to check in with Carla because she said, Chris, be sure you check in with me because things change. So yes, I'm going to check in with Miss Carla Benson, and that is going to be what we start the week off with on Monday. So thank you guys for tuning in to On the Groove Line Live with your boy Chris Stevens. Greatly appreciate y'all as always. Until the next time we speak, y'all take care of yourselves. No, that's another show I do. Okay, it's may you find the groove, or may the groove find you. All right, have a good weekend, y'all. We gone.